Alright, so there's been some videos put out there on the new Husqvarna TX300, but not a lot of reviews, so I'm just gonna check my air fork pressure. So when you buy the bike, this is the air pump that comes with the purchase of the bike. So here I've got my bike up on the stand, and then I don't have to do anything. I don't have to pull the handlebar cover off or anything. I just use, it's real easy for me anyway. Just use my left hand, unscrew the cover, unscrew the cap there. And I'm going to take and screw on the valve here for the air pump. I'm struggling more because I'm trying to hold the pump in the phone. There we go. Okay. Screw it down tight, just hand tight. You don't need to crank it or anything like that. Don't go crazy. Okay. And so now the readout I was going to tell you. So there we got 123. It's hard to see, but right down here it's telling you what it is. So there's bar. So right now I'm at 8.51 bar. And if I go again, that's showing me in kilograms per cubic meter squared, I believe it is. So a different readout. And then that's PSI. So right now you can see my forks are at 123 PSI. If you wanted it to be less, and it tells you on the bottom what each one is. See if I can get the camera to focus in. But PSI, bar, and kilogram cubic meter cubed. So right now on PSI, that's bar, and that's the kilogram. Then back to PSI. If I wanted to let some air out, if I wanted to be 122, you just push that. Oh, see how fast it is? So now I'm down to 119. What I want to be is I want to be, I'm going to go take it up to about 135 PSI. And that's going to be close to that 9.6 bar, I believe. It'll be fairly close. So you just start pumping it, and the gauge will start to adjust. Sorry about the camera view here. You want to have the bike up on the stand. Bring the camera. Come hold this. Hey. So you want to have the bike up on the stand. Hold the camera. Don't cover it, yo. So you want to have the bike up on the stand because you need the forks, all the weight completely off the front end of the bike. And then you just pump it up until you get the desired air pressure that you want. So there's 135 PSI. If I go to there, that's 9.3 bar. So 9.3 bar is close. And then there's the kilogram one. So I'm going to go at 135 PSI for the ride, and I'm going to go do, like I showed in the first video, here on the side of the bike, it's got a sticker. And Husqvarna is kind of recommending right there, 9.6 bar. So I'm at 135 PSI, which is 9.3 bar. So that's just right for me. Now, you just leave it like that, and when you undo it, you'll get a little bit of air come out of the line, but they claim you won't lose any PSI to what it's showing, that the gauge regulates it and understands and gives you the PSI true to the fork, not what's in the line. So then I just Unscrew it. And then put the cap right back on. I'm dropping it, trying to put the phone here. See the cap back down, and there it is. It's done. So right now on the bike, last time I had, can't remember how many hours, so I've been out for another hour ride on it, basically 7.2 hours since the last video. But right now, my last ride, I did an adjustment on the main jet, or sorry, on the needle jet. The main jet, I am gonna lean it out 2 numbers. I'm gonna go leaner than what I am now by 2. And then on the needle, I dropped it 1 clip, and I'm gonna open it up right now, and I'm gonna drop the needle all the way to the bottom and ride it like that. So I'm gonna lean it out as much as I can with that needle at this time. So I'll pull that apart, and then I'll show you what I got. Okay, so I got my screwdriver here. So on this bike, the carburetor's not the easiest thing in the world to get to work on without taking the gas tank off, so you'd have to take the fender off, take the seat off, and then pull the gas tank off. And you have to get the gas tank off, you've got to pull these 2 bolts each side of the shrouds and get it off the radiator and out. So it's not the most easiest thing to get to, but you can do it, and it's not super easy and convenient, but it's not all that hard either. The trick is, I found, is on the clutch side of the bike, you cannot access it. Once you've unscrewed it, you can't rotate the carburetor far enough this way. Bottom of the carburetor down here bottoms out over here against the casing. So what I did is I just loosened these clamps up good, and then I'll go to the other side of the bike, and then I can rotate it around far enough that way. Just take your clutch cable or your throttle cable and make sure it's gonna roll with you, and then just roll the carburetor to the throttle side of the bike. Get your hoses, come up, and then from that other side of the bike you can access the top of the carb. Come here, Brittany, come hold this. So try and hold it so you can see down in here what I'm doing. So you've got the 2 screws that hold the slide to the carburetor in. Just gonna loosen it, and then same with this other one. Can you see? You don't have to. You're fine where you're at. So. Okay, so once that's loose, these hoses right here that you can see, these air hoses, fuel lines and stuff, the air lines, they're just loose. You just push it out of the way, and then slide it up and off. Again, take your throttle cable, kind of pull it down in here to give yourself the slack you need, and just work your slide right out. Now these screws here, I'm holding them in with my hand, but if you were to just let go, they would fall. So you want to kind of hold those with make sure you've got them cupped with your hand, or pull them off to begin with so they don't fall. And now we're going to collapse the spring. A little guide safety will come out with it. And that comes off. The spring comes off. And here we have the slide. Okay, so for the slide, I've got my just my wrench here that fits the slide, fits the bolt. I'm just going to take it, pull it out, the retainer, that just holds the needle in place. Pull the needle out. And so here you can see right there, I'm on the second from the top. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. And we're going to pop that off. I'm going to go to the very top. The needle jet is, for right now, I don't have a good magnifying glass. And I think it's a 37 is what the number is on it. But my eyes aren't so great to be able to see it. Right now, my main jet that I'm running, again, this is the Mikuni carburetor system, so my main jet is a 410. My pilot jet is a 35, and I believe this needle is a 37. My main jet, I'm probably going to drop down to, like I said, I'm going to drop a couple numbers. I'm going to go to a 405. I'm going to get a 405 and try that, lean it out. My pilot jet, for now, I'm going to leave right where it's at. And right now, I'm going to drop my needle all the way, pull the clip all the way to the top so the needle goes down inside, and by dropping the needle down and lower, we're leaning out the mixture, the fuel to air ratio mixture, and that's what I want. Put that in, drop that in. Now just go nice and easy because you don't want to cross thread it, so you just go easy and it should just turn until it seats, and you'll know it's seated because you wouldn't be able to push the needle up through. So it's seated in there. Got it finger tight, and then I'm just going to put just a little bit of torque on it, not much at all. When you buy the bike, these are all the, I'm going to open this up, this is what it comes in, all the extra parts, carburetor parts and the springs for the valve system. So when you buy it, this is what it all comes with. Normally the red one would be sitting here, and this yellow one is inside the bike when you buy it stock. So you have the blue, which is the stiffest spring, so it requires more RPM to get it to open, so it's a extremely soft hit on the valves. And then you have the yellow spring, which is mid-range, not as stiff as the blue, and you can tell by the coils, you can see how they're coiled different. And then the red one is much lighter than the yellow even, and so it opens up easier, so you get that power hit easier. So the bike stock comes with all these main jets right here. Came with the 5 main jets, came with 2 pilot jets, and 1 extra needle jet. And of course, everything here is richer than what I already want. I want to go leaner, and I already have the leanest ones in the bike. 410 was the leanest, and I'm trying to remember which one was the fattest. This one right here is a 460. So you have 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, and then the 10 that's in the bike. And then for the pilot jets, it was, the richest one was, this is 37.5 maybe. They're kind of hard to read for my eyes here. And this one is, if I can see it, I gotta catch it just right in the light. This one's 40. So it was 40, 37.5, and then 35. And so I have the 35 in there, the leanest one. And then this one I really got to get a magnifying glass. I can't tell. So I'm not even sure. This needle might be leaner than the one I have in it. But I don't think it is. I think it's richer.
I can see it.
You think you can read those numbers?
It's 43/73.
So my daughter here thinks she's got keen eyes and she can read it. So if she can, this is a 43. Well, then you should have read this one. So we'll pull this one out and see if her keen eyes can read this one too. I'll take this one back out and see. All right, let's see if you can read this one now.
It's a 473.
What?
Oh, 44/73.
So this one's 44, and what was this one?
43/73.
Okay. So this one is leaner. So I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna leave it like this. I'm gonna leave it, drop down a needle, drop down one position, go for some rides, see how I like it, and then maybe swap it out and try that other one. Just kind of do things one step at a time so you know what you're getting, what you're doing. So this is how it all comes from Husqvarna when I picked up from the dealer. It's all in this tube like that. Okay, we're gonna go back over to the bike. And just if you've never worked on one of these before, if you've never done this, I'll just show you. You can see once you're down in here, the needle retainer, it's got that groove in it. Well, the throttle spring has that groove in it too, and so when you put it back together, you just want to make sure you spin it and line it up so that that notch in the plastic goes down the notch inside the retainer, and that makes sure that your throttle cable can't come pop out. So we got a throttle cable.
Dad, are you
Spring on first.
that?
Spring on first. Put it up in there. Hey, buddy. Yeah, we're working on the motorcycle for a minute, okay? Hold on, bud. And then you just gotta get the throttle cable back down in there. Once that's in there, you just line up those grooves in that plastic, and it'll drop once you got it. That plastic cap will drop all the way down inside there, so it's lined up nice and good. Now from here, just be careful about it. You don't want to be jamming things around and cramming things. If it's not just going in fairly easy, then something's not right. So we're just going to line the slide back up. Move those out of the way. The slide will go in, but it's not going to fall in all the way. It'll kind of bottom out. That's because the needle is, with the carburetor sitting sideways like this, the needle's kind of going to fall to the side. And so now the needle's not going to line up with the main jet. And so once we get this thing to start, it's going to kind of go, and then it's just going to stop. Oh, there it went. So that time it went in. If it kind of stops and just kind of hovers right here towards the top and it won't go any lower, just rotate the carburetor, stand it straight back up, and then lift it back up and it'll drop right back down in. And then once it's in, you can twist it back sideways. Your cap can only go one way. See how it's not going to line up that way? So, oh my goodness. Just rotate it around, and your screw holes will line back up. And then just be careful, try not to drop your each of your screws while you're doing this. If you can't get them in, sometimes it's easier to just pull the lid back out just a little bit in the cap and get the screws inside the housing to start. And then just reposition it and make sure that they're started before you just go cranking on them so you don't strip something out. Line them back up. And then you can start them by your fingers first, then you're for sure not going to cross thread something. Okay, so that one's started. And then make sure they're both in there before you go and crank one of them down. That one's started. Alright, so now they're both started, so I'm just going to hold the cap down all the way in place with my hand. And then snug the one up. Get it snug. Come to the other side. Snug it up. just give them a little bit of a torque on them. They don't need to be, don't go crazy. Just put a little bit of torque on them, make sure they're tight and seated. Okay, stand the carburetor back up, and then grab your throttle cable up here. Show the camera up here. And you're just going to grab your throttle cable and just kind of make sure that it's all the way back up, and it'll kind of loop, comes up inside the gas tank like you see, and it'll come up on the inside of your handlebar guard pad there and comes right around. Just a nice loop like that. And we'll come back around to the other side. Okay, just make sure the carburetor's standing up, and make sure the boot over here is on the carburetor tight, that you don't have some weird gap between the boot and the carburetor. And same with the front, you want to make sure it's on there good. And so sometimes the easiest way to do that is just grab the carb with both hands and kind of rotate it around and move it a little bit like that and make sure it seats. Then just stand the carburetor up and make sure you tighten your clamps back up. There's that one. And then the front one. This line right here is the clutch line, hydraulic line for the clutch lever. So you just kind of flex out of the way. To get to, if you want to change the jets, the pilot and the main, I just took the carburetor right off the bike. And so to do that, to take the carburetor off, like I said, you've got to I removed the side fairings, removed the seat. I took the gas tank off, and then there's this main subframe bolt. There's a subframe bolt on the other side, and then there's 1 and 2 up front. The ones up here where the subframe up in here connects to the frame, it's not one bolt that goes all the way through. Each side has its own little one like this, and so there's 4 bolts in all. And so I took the whole subframe right off. The tricky part the first time I did it is underneath here where the battery and everything sits. Like the subframe's all one piece almost, and then there's this little separate box piece that the battery and all the wiring sits inside of, that sits inside of the subframe. So you've got to take the subframe and stand the whole thing way up like this, and then you get the right angle, and then you can take that secondary box with all the other stuff in it, and you can kind of stand it up and slide it out, and then the whole subframe comes right off. It was a little weird the first time I did it. It took me a minute to figure it out, but not too bad now that I know that. And then once all that was off, obviously the carburetor is easy to get to, and I just took the carb off and messed around with my jets that way. Okay, so there's the carburetor and what I've done with that so far. Now that I've dropped the needle all the way down, I'm going for a ride here in a couple hours, and I'll test it out and we'll see how it does. Thanks for watching.